How are we doing, people? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another live stream. Welcome back, people. Welcome back to another live stream. Bitcoin, surprisingly, shockingly, has broken above 70. Did we break 70,000? But we got to 70. Bitcoin has shockingly broke above $70,000. The bulls have rejoiced again. The bulls are once again calling for the beginning of another bull market. The bulls are once again calling for a new all-time highs over $126,000. The bulls are once again calling for $60,000 to be the low of the bear market. And I'm here, all right, I'm here to share with you that this right here is a massive trap. This right here is not what you think it is. This right here is going to end very bad. This is going to end badly. Very, very bad in the next couple of days. If you watch my streams, if you watch my Bitcoin price analysis over the last couple of months, you know exactly where I stand when it comes to this market. You know exactly my outlook on this market. I am 100% bearish on Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market. And I'm here to remind you that this move right here, even though this has invalidated what we talked about yesterday and what we talked about recently, I'm here to remind you that this right here is not bullish. This right here is not the beginning of a new all-time high. This right here, guys, is a massive trap. And if you're not careful, if you're not doing your research, if you're not patient, you are going to get your head blown out. This is not for the rookies. This is for the professionals. So make sure you're doing your own due diligence. Make sure you're not blindly following, influencers who are trying to pump the price of Bitcoin. And I hope none of you guys is accumulating altcoins thinking that this is the beginning of a great bull market. This right here is a massive trap. A very big one, actually. This is a massive trap, guys. So welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be an amazing live stream. We are going to talk about exactly what's going on right now. We are going to talk about not just Bitcoin, the altcoin market. And as always, if you guys have any project, if you have any coin specifically that you would like me to analyze, put them in the chat. All right. If you have anything that you would like me to analyze, put them in the chat. But let me just kind of get myself situated right here, guys. Let me take care of a few things. Just give me about 2 seconds, and then we'll talk about why this is a massive trap and why I continue to believe that we are going to see the $50,000 range sometimes in the next few weeks, guys. Could potentially be sooner, but it's always nice to give yourself some time. So just give me a second right here. All right, let's go. So let's talk about this. This right here is a massive trap. This is a big trap right here, guys. I didn't see this move coming. I do want to be honest with you guys. Yesterday when I was live streaming, Bitcoin had just broken down. We had just broke out of this pattern right here, which is a bearish pattern. And I was looking at this move right here. I was looking at this move right here as the beginning of, going down in the $50,000 range. I was expecting, some sort of a retest to this yellow line that was going to get rejected. When we did get the retest, we invalidated my, basically my pattern. So the fact that the retest was never rejected, well, we did get rejected at first, but the fact that price, broke above $66,000 and we came back in this triangle right here, that was the invalidation of this breakdown right here. So, I'm looking at this right now as a complete, different pattern. So I'm looking at this right now and I want to see what we do, over the next couple of days. I want to see how this ends. Right now, there's not much I can do, because price has managed not only to get back into this triangle right here, but price has also managed to put in a higher high. So we managed to break above the last lower high. So, getting above this $68,600 level was, a major invalidation. So instead, in terms of pattern, right now, I'm just going to wait and see how this all plays out. But the bigger picture is, have we bottomed and are we looking at the beginning of another incredible bull market? Because this is what I want to comment on. In my opinion, chat, this is a big trap right here. All right, this is a big trap. When you look at this daily setup right here, I don't see, I don't see a bullish setup on the daily. Absolutely not, guys. Like, I do not see a reason to be bullish. And if the daily is got a bullish setup, that means price could potentially go up for a couple of days and potentially a couple of weeks. I do not see the price of Bitcoin up for a couple, or maybe a couple of days, could be 2 days. But I just don't see a sustainable uptrend on this daily. Like, I don't see Bitcoin, for 5 days, 9 days, 15 days going up. I really, really don't see that. And if we do get something like that, I'll be very, very shocked. So what do I think is playing out right now? Let me share with you guys exactly what do I think is playing out. I have spent, this entire bear market, kind of predicting that we are basically, look, I don't want to say exactly, but if you go back to the last bear market, guys, there's a lot of similarities. So if you come back right here, I think this is exactly what, we are doing. And if you actually think about the last, the same consolidation, we had it right here. You had this triangle right here that was broken. So if you put a trend line right here, guys, all right, the triangle was broken right here, which is very similar to what we did yesterday. This was the breakdown. And then shortly after that, we had this move right here. So I think this is exactly what we have right now. So if you go back to, the current, what the hell is this? If you come back right here, guys, you have exactly the same triangle, which is right here. All right, you have a breakdown, and then you have a retest that managed to break above, the triangle. So to me, the more I'll go back to the last bear market, the more I look at this price action right here in the month of, this is May and June of 2025, the more similarities that I continue to pick up. So, about a couple of days ago, I also looked at Bitcoin and I analyze Bitcoin from an RSI perspective. And what I say to you guys was that we are more likely to top, once this RSI approaches, daily RSI, of course, guys, once the daily RSI approaches the 50 line. So this was a video that was posted about 2 days ago. When you look at, this consolidation right here, let me share with you daily RSI by the time we finally finalized this move, and then it started, the next leg to the downside. So this was around May 30, all right, 31, 2022. So if I put a vertical line right here, Chad, this was basically the top of the move. So if I make this a little bigger, you can clearly see RSI was around 51. All right, 51 RSI. That was the top of this rally. And shortly after that, we had the beginning of, the next massive leg down. So when you look at the current RSI, guys, all right, when you look at the current RSI, so RSI today is, just got to speed it up. So RSI right now is around 42. So the daily RSI is around 42. My outlook on this is that we are going to see this daily RSI somewhere in the 50s. All right, somewhere in the 50s, over the next couple of days. And that could potentially mark the end of the rally. The reason is because these last couple of days when we were analyzing Bitcoin on the daily, one thing that we talked about, and I actually spent a lot of time talking about, was how extremely bearish the daily RSI was. You guys may remember we said, daily RSI has hit 15, which is one of the lowest RSI in the history of Bitcoin. Like we literally, all right, in the month of February, guys, we literally made history. We had a Bitcoin daily RSI at 15. The last time we were at 15, you got to go back to the COVID drop. Like that's how far back you have to, that's how far back, you have to go to get a daily RSI around 15. And what I say to you guys was that, we are more likely to reset this RSI right here, because how further down can we go? Do we go all the way down to like the one, the twos? So what I said to you guys was that we are more likely to reset the RSI, maybe come back in the 50s, all right, maybe in the higher 40s, but anyway, somewhere around here. And that could potentially mark, the end of the rally or the end of this consolidation right here. And shortly after, we'll see a beginning of, the next leg down that brings the price of Bitcoin in the $50,000 range. Now, yesterday when we had this breakdown, yesterday when Bitcoin, well, not yesterday, 2 days ago, when we had this breakdown right here, I really thought so I really thought like this was the beginning of the drop right here. But instead, we ended up with this move right here, which is perfectly fine. This doesn't change anything. If you think this is a reason to be bullish on Bitcoin long term, I think you're making a very big mistake. Like a very, very big mistake. This is not going to change anything. Chad, just think about this, right? The market has been crashing for the last several months. Do you really think, one day of positive price action is all of the sudden going to change, I don't know, the last, 4 months of bearish price action? I don't think so. I absolutely don't think so. So, I'm looking at this. I see this as a very big trap. And if you're not be careful, you are going to get hurt. If you are not be careful, if you're rushing into positions because you think this is some sort of a beginning of another incredible bull market, then I think you are going to be. I'm not gonna say very surprised, but yeah, maybe surprised is the right way to describe this. You are going to be very surprised, a couple weeks from now. So, looking at this, a very big trap. I'm going to keep my eyes on, this daily RSI right here. One thing I continue to say is, just go back to the last bear market. Study the price action from around early May until early June when Bitcoin was consolidating. And again, I'm basically talking about this consolidation right here, chat. If you go back and you take your time and you study this consolidation right here, I think there's a lot of similarities. So, let's talk about targets though. Like, where are we more likely to top? If I'm looking at this daily time frame right here, guys, where are we more likely to see the top? So, I'm using my 21 and the 50 EMA on the daily. What I'm going to say to you guys is this. Right here is exactly where the top is more likely to come in. So between the 21 and the 50 EMA, guys. So I don't think we'll get above $76,000. If we do get above 76, I'll be very shocked. It wouldn't surprise me if we break above the 21 moving average. That it's only a Bitcoin that's above $70,000. Right now the 21 EMA is at 69,000. So we've actually already broken above. But I think something like this, and then the end of the move is in, and then we might consolidate here, and then the next time we break down, I think that should send us way, way lower. So if you were to ask me, I'm going to say somewhere between these two lines right here, guys. And remember, these are moving averages, and right now both are in a decline. So the 21 EMA will continue to decline. The 50 EMA will continue to decline. So, continue to monitor this. And honestly, look, I don't think we have, if I'll have to make a guess, I'll say we have this week and then we have next week, and we should see Bitcoin going down in the $50,000 range. Like, I don't see more than 2 weeks in this consolidation. I really, really don't. If you go back to exactly what I'm comparing this to, so if you go all the way back again, hopefully you guys are not getting tired of this comparison right here. So if you come all the way back here, guys, we had exactly the same breakout, above the 21 moving average. Never made it above the 50 moving average. And the reason I don't think, we'll make it above the 50, guys, is because I think the only way we make above the 50 is if we are getting a weekly relief rally. I don't think this is a weekly relief rally. I think this is, a daily relief rally, consolidation. And, I only see us below the 50 moving average. But the next time we do go up, the next time we get a real rally, then I do think the price of Bitcoin is more likely to break above the 50 moving average on the daily. So that is Bitcoin. I don't know if I have anything else to add on to this. This is a big trap right here. The more, look, I'm not even spending time looking at this price, because if you think this is bullish, guys, all you got to do is zoom out. Look at this weekly. All right, what's bullish about this? What is it about this move that takes us back to new all-time highs? What is it about this weekly candle that is different from this right here, from this right here, from this right here? Why then, the move from $80,000 to $96,000? Why didn't that take us back to $126,000? If going from $80,000 to $96,000 was not reliable enough to bring us back to new all-time highs, what makes you think going from 62,000 to 70,000 is, strong enough to send Bitcoin back to its new all-time high? I mean, look, this market is full of. I mean, honestly, like I don't know how to describe the crowd, guys. Like the crypto investors, we are very unique. Like the investors in this market are very unique, extremely emotional. Uh, the strategies are all of. I mean, don't even get me started about the strategy. But anyways, look, we have not done anything. We have not done anything, and there is no new bull market. Chap, we're not going to $100,000. We are not going to $100,000. We are not starting a new bull market. Now, when the weekly looks like this, the only way for us to get back to a new bull market, Bitcoin has got a lot of work to do. We need to break above some major, major, major key levels. If I'm looking at the monthly, I need to see price at least above the 10 monthly moving average. And that is around $89,000. Only way for me to turn bullish again on BTC, guys. Send the price of Bitcoin above $89,000. You send Bitcoin above 89,000, you stay above $89,000. I'm back in a bull market. I'm back talking about, bull market targets, 126,000, potentially 150, $200,000. What targets do you guys like? So you want to be careful out there. This is not the time to go crazy. This is not the time to, to think otherwise. If you use moving averages, in my case, I'm looking at exponential moving averages. I'm looking at the 21. I'm looking at the 50. Price below moving average. It's not a bull market, guys. And once you get above the EMAs, you need to stay above the EMAs. So there's absolutely no way. I look at a setup like this and think this is, some sort of this is something to to get behind and start talking crazy. Now, if you are a short-term trader, and you are looking at the 1 hour, there was a chance to trade BTC. The moment we had this, actually, if you go back down, the moment we had this breakout right here, let's go to the 15 minutes actually. So if you are a short-term trader, the moment we had this breakout right here, chat. So the moment the price of Bitcoin broke above $64,000 with this retest that managed to put in a higher low, that was a time to look for entries. You could have jumped in around $64,500 with a stop loss below $63,800. That would have been a good entry. Or you could have waited for this pullback right here. You could have jumped in anywhere around $65,200 with a stop loss below $64,800. Right now, it's just, if you want to do something right now, you got to wait for another pullback. If I'm on the 15 minutes, I'm waiting for a pullback. If you look at the most recent price action, we've done a great job, coming back and staying above the 50 EMA on the 15 minutes. So wait for a pullback somewhere in this range right here. Simply put a trend line like this. If you do get a bounce, this is your entry. This is your stop loss. Your stop loss is somewhere around here. And then repeat the same process over and over and over again. A bunch of these altcoins have some, pretty big moves today. So I want to talk about altcoins. But very similar to Bitcoin, guys. This is not the beginning of a bull market for altcoins. This is not an altcoin season. You want to be careful out there. You should be careful out there. Remember, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the like button. And I want to talk about altcoins because, I mean, the moves across the altcoin market. I saw some coins that were up like 30%. I think I even saw 40 or 50. Some very big moves. So let's go to altcoins. What do we have right here? I'm gonna start with Solana. Solana had a very big move. Look, Solana, man, wow. Solana, $89. So we talked about Solana. We talked about Solana yesterday, and I was very bearish. I thought this was the beginning of, going into the $50 range. Very similar to Bitcoin. The pattern right here was invalidated, the moment we had this move. So this pattern was invalidated, guys. And remember yesterday when I was live streaming, what I said to you guys was, if you're looking for a short trade, actually, you would have took the trade and probably you would have, well, not probably, you would have lost definitely. So if you were looking Solana, you probably, once this thing was rejected right here, you probably grabbed the position, maybe somewhere around 77 with a stop loss, maybe above $80, or maybe you put your stop loss above 85. So that was a loss. Look, this is trading, man. Days like this a part of your journey and part of your process. But anyways, so let's talk about Solana. So once again, this is not bullish right here. All right, all coins, despite this big move, this is not bullish. The reason this is not bullish, you always got to zoom out. You go to the weekly, Solana looks extremely bearish. You go to the monthly, Solana looks extremely bearish. When you go to the daily, this is a really, really good move. All right, from around $75 to 92. This is a 20% move. So, congratulations to anyone who was able to capture this move right here. But where do I think we are going to top? Look, I think we top somewhere in this box right here, guys. I really believe Solana tops somewhere around here. Like, do we make it all the way up to $100? I think probably not. Maybe somewhere in the mid 90s. It wouldn't surprise me, but I think we're gonna top somewhere around here, and then we are going to get the real pullback. The only way for me to change my, bearish outlook on Solana, then I need to see some higher lows. I need to see some higher highs. If I'm looking at the current price action, like, look, this is a really good move. But, in terms of changing the trend of this daily, we just haven't done that. I'm going to look for some pullbacks. Do we start putting in higher lows? If we can start putting in higher lows, then my opinion would change on Solana and a bunch of these altcoins. But I'm looking at this and, chat, I'm not impressed. Maybe in the short term, a 20% move, okay. But, I've seen them all before. What I'm trying to make sure that you guys, don't do is trying to make sure you don't lose sight of the bigger picture. The bigger picture is down, man. You go back to the last bear market, chat. There is a lot of, relief rallies. There's a bunch of fake outs. There's a bunch of fake pumps. So I'll give you guys an example. I'm going to bring back these two EMAs right here, guys. So if you go back, you look at Solana back around, I think, yeah, this is the one I was actually talking about. So sometimes around October of 2022, I want you guys to take a look at this move right here. Look, this is a 45% move. But guess what, guys? Shortly after that, look at this right here, chat. This is an 80% crash. Shortly after going up 45%, we crash 80%. So what can you learn from here? Well, in a bear market, moves like this are very normal. What you should thrive, what you should try to do is keep your eyes on the bigger picture. So what is the bigger picture? The bigger picture is that as long as you have something like this, which is a downtrend, lower highs, and lower lows, always expect the price to continue down. And guess what? If you come back right here again, Solana, not only do we get this move right here, chat, we also managed to take out the previous high. So once we broke above $35, that was somewhat bullish. But you always want to wait for a pullback. The pullback needs to confirm to you that the breakout was actually legit. So this is pullback right here. Instead of giving us higher lows, guess what, guys? We blast through every single support. We blast through $30, blast through 27. Once we lost 27, there was no more support. So we flashed all the way down to around $11 before our very last capitulation to 8. Now, this was the absolute bottom of the bear market. But what I'm trying to make sure, again, that you don't lose sight of is the trend is everything. Without the trend, without knowing what the trend is, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. All right, the mistakes are going to be a lot of them. So try to make sure you are on the right side of the trend. If I'm looking at this weekly, an $89 Ethereum doesn't say anything to me. All right. What I'm more interested in is what are we looking at? What is this? What is this right here? And what is this right here? Well, this is a lower high. This right here is a lower low. And this right here is a lower low. If we go up, we are more likely to put in a lower high. All right. You can trade this, but I recommend staying on the sideline because, a bad entry could get you hurt. All right. A very bad entry, if the time is not right, you could lose a couple thousands or tens of thousands, depending on how big is your portfolio or your position. Yeah, so it's not just Solana. It's a bunch of these other old coins. What do we have? Look at Zcash. I want to share with you guys Zcash. But you look at Zcash on the daily chat. Look, some big pullbacks and lower highs, lower lows. So like this doesn't change anything. You look at XRP. This one is a perfect one. A very big move in XRP, but I don't see the price. Like I just don't see XRP breaking above, like 163 and continuing higher. I really, really don't see that. You come back to right here. This is a lower time. This is going to end up like this move right here. See how price managed to break above, both the 50 and the 21 on the 4 hour. But then when we do get a pullback, there's just, there's nothing there. And then we continue all the way down. So I don't know how far up we go. But the pullback, I don't think there's going to be anything there. And I think you are, going to end up with something like this. So, you want to be careful out there. There's nothing, there's nothing here for a bunch of these, these tokens. CRO, I mean, this one is even worse, man. Very big moves, though. In the short term, very big moves. If I'm looking at CRO, guys, I mean, look, hopefully this is the end of its bear market because, once you lose these lows, you're looking at CRO going back to 4 cents. And this is why, like a 50% crash again. Like, this is how bad this is. You go to the daily, this move right here doesn't really change anything. You look at some of these indicators, and once again, look, RSI, just give us a reset, maybe something like this, and then, we go down again. So if you think about the last time we reset this RSI, guys, let me show you where the price was. So look at this RSI reset. Yo, if in a bear market, if you get RSI in the higher 60s, get out of your position, guys, as quickly as you can. So right here, we had this rally from 8 cents all the way up to 11. Remember, this was also a very big move, right? This is a 26% move. But guess what? Once that move was over, you go from the top of the rally all the way down to the bottom. Chat, this is a 40% crash. I promise you guys, exactly the same thing is coming. If the top of CRO, let's say, is around 10 cents, right? So 10 cents, that puts us, I don't even know if we get to 10, but let's just say we go to 10 cents. Once the rally is over, look, you're looking at a 50% crash from 10 cents to 5. Like this right here is bad. I'm telling you people right now, this right here is really, really bad. But people just don't care. What I'll say to you guys, if you're not a day trader, stay away from this market. If you're not a day trader, stay away from this market. And if you don't believe me, just zoom out. All right, look at these weekly candles. Like, are we spending a lot of time going up or down? We're spending a lot of time going down. Technical analysis doesn't have to be complicated. Like, you don't have to memorize, different patterns. You don't have to spend these many hours looking at charts. Just look at the chart, man. Are you spending, most of the time going down or up? And if it's down, that means you're in a downtrend. So, these worthless tokens, ZBC, look, like this one right here, this is really bad. And I think sometimes this year we retest these lows right here. In terms of, the moving averages, look, this is a death cross right here, guys. And I can tell you this looks really bad. We might get a bounce to retest, maybe the 21 moving average. And then once we put in a top, the next leg down, you're basically looking at this target right here. So if you go from this price, like already this is a 60% crash. It's not worth it. And if it goes higher, the crash is going to be even more severe because, instead of 60, you're looking at 70, potentially 80. Like this to me looks really, really bad. Now, a bunch of these tokens, when we do get a weekly rally, which I think we're about to see one, pretty soon. When we do get a weekly rally, a bunch of these tokens are going to go up, probably 100%, 200%, some even 300%, to be very honest with you guys. But that won't be the new, a new bull market. That will be another rally that, that ends in 2026, and then, we'll spend several months pulling back, going sideways until the new bull market again. SUI is up about 13%. Aerodrome Finance is up about 12%. But we do have some big runners. If you go to Coinbase, let me see if I can go to Coinbase. If you go to Coinbase and you look at the top gainers, let me bring Coinbase right here. If you look at the top gainers on Coinbase, wow, Polkadot is leading. Polkadot is up 35. Near Protocol is up 23. Filecoin is up 24. Uniswap, Celestia, like these are dead tokens, man. Yo, Chad, you know how bad this is? Polkadot out of every other project. This is how you know it's a brutal bear market, man. Look, I want you guys to take a look at Polkadot, guys. Polkadot is below its 2022 bear market. And let me show you how bad this is. From the lows of that 22 bear market, Polkadot is down about 55%. We are 55% below 2022, guys. This is how bad this is. So price goes up 35%, and you mean to tell me this is the beginning of a bull market? This is how crazy this market is. So if I'm looking at Polkadot, I don't know about you guys. Like, why would you even buy this? Why would you even buy this? Okay, in the short term, if you want to trade it, that's fine with me. You go down to the 5 minutes. Look at the 5-minute chart. You could have jumped in. But imagine spending your time analyzing Polkadot on the 5 minutes. Yo, guys, go out there, man. Play some sports. Do something with. Do something with yourself, man. Polkadot, you analyzing the 5 minute. But anyways, let's say you were analyzing the 5 minute. This is when the downtrend was reversed, right here. So the moment price broke above 126, also got above 128, and then you had this retest that gave us a higher low. All right, not only a higher low. I want you guys to take a look at how the higher low was actually formed. All right, look at this, guys. You can say this was an inverse head and shoulder pattern right here. And then, of course, gives you a beautiful breakout. Look, this is the breakout. This is a retest of the breakout. So you could have jumped into a position, even somewhere around 127, even 128, with a stop loss just right below 125 or 126. So on the 5-minute chart, you had no reason to exit this position. Like anywhere, even right now, you are still looking good. Now, if we go below 163, all right, get out of your position because the trend is broken. So far, this looks really good. I don't like, yeah. So once you go below 163, get out of your position. But anyways, look, like how do you, like I don't know how many people were able to capture this move right here, guys, because if you have spent, your entire 2026 monitoring the 5-minute chart on Polkadot, can you imagine, finally you get a trade? Yeah, I don't want to do that. I'd rather stay with my weekly and monthly, try to catch the big moves. But anyways, this move right here is going to fade. This is not something that you haven't seen, guys. Look, you've seen that over and over again. This move, we got exactly the same one right here. Look. All right, a 40% move right here, guys. That was the end of it. After going up 40%, how much did we go down? 53%. So I'm telling you people right now, after going up this much percentage, we just went up about 56. All right, we got another, 50% dump coming. And that brings the price of Polkadot below $1. So, was this bullish or bearish? That is what you have to, that's the reality that you have to face. Yeah, you go to Coinbase, top gainers. Look, Celestia, man, this is a dead token right here. Imagine buying Celestia in 2026, guys. Zoom out, go to the weekly. Actually, go to the monthly. Remember Celestia was a $20 token? It's currently 35 cents. I know people who bought at these levels. 35 cents, guys. And you go to Coinbase, top gainers, Celestia is one of them. Celestia is among the top gainers on Coinbase. Ridiculous. If this is your bull market, if this is what the beginning of a bull market looks like, I personally don't want to be part of it. Remember, subscribe, hit the like button. If you have some stuff, guys, put them in the chat, because this is all about you guys. This is not about just me, guys. I like what I like. You like what you like. So if you have tokens that you like and you want me to give you my opinion on their TA, put them in the chat, guys. Put them in the chat. But the market looks bad. Look, this looks really bad. Not in the short term, long term. Speaking of looking bad, Vitalik is dumping Ethereum, actually. Vitalik is dumping Ethereum. I think he sold, is it $10 million worth, $8 million worth? Hold on, I think follow me on X if you haven't already. There you go. Vitalik is dumping 4,325 ETH, worth around $8 million. He's done this over the past 3 days. So Vitalik is selling, and you want to be a buyer. Interesting. So anyways, look, if I'm looking at Ethereum as well, guys, look. The triangle right here, the bearish triangle was invalidated, but doesn't change anything. I don't think we get much. I don't think we get much out of, out of this move right here. The top, in my opinion, comes in somewhere around here. All right. If you go back to the last bear market, I keep going back to the last bear market because there's just, if you do your research, so much from the last bear market, we have it in this bear market, guys. So look, tell me this is not similar. You have your triangle right here. Now this one was a weekly rally, of course. You have your triangle right here, guys. Right here. Price breaks out to the upside. Remember, you're in a bear market. Break out like this. I'm sure people got bullish within this breakout. But where did we go? Like, where did we go? We went from $2,500 to 36. People probably got extremely bullish. But I want you to take a look at performance after. We go from $3,600 to $800. This is a 75% crash. Go back. So, when you go back, you see exactly, why you should be patient, because, we've seen this movie all over again. Like, we're not new here. We've been here before, and there's nothing new. And I can tell you guys, look, a bear market bottom does not look like this. And a bear market bottom doesn't take a couple of days. It takes a couple months, guys. If you go back and you look at Ethereum's bear market bottom, let me show you the process. Look, this is the bear market bottom right here, chat. Right there. This is the bear market bottom. You go from June of 2022 until October of 2023. And then this is the new bull market right here, from around $1,700, back to $4,000. This is the new bull market. But how long was the bottom process? All right. The process took about, this is 470 days. 470 days. That's how long it took us to bottom. And all you had to do was be patient. All right. Let's say you missed the first impulse move. Let's say the price of Ethereum, the true bottom is $800, and then it goes all the way up to $2,000. Trust me, you are going to get back closer to the actual bottom. Look, we came back to $1,000. And then we go up again. We come back again to $1,300. If you bought at $1,000 and I buy at $1,300, we basically have the same entry. Okay? If you buy at 13 and I get in at 15, guys, we have the same entry. So, you want to be patient. Let's take a look at Bitcoin, all right? Bitcoin's bottom. Let's take a look at BTC right here. Bitcoin's last bear market bottom. This is the bottom right here, guys. Look, the bottom was from June of 2022, all right, until March of 2023. So when you think about how long this took, this is 266 days. Now, why do I say this is the entire bottom? Because, guys, you have to wait until, the overall trend is reversed. We didn't reverse the trend until the price of Bitcoin in the last bear market, broke above, I think it was $25,000 right here. Because once we broke above $25,000 on the weekly, which is a higher time frame, a new trend was established. All right, the downtrend was over. But this is 266 days. All right, at first we hit $17,000. We go up to 25. We come back to $15,000. We go up to 25. We come back to $19,000. Just think about that. There's plenty of opportunities. So if this is a bottom, let's say this is a bear market bottom, and let's say the price of Bitcoin goes to, let's say, 80,000, we are going to come back very close to $60,000. We may go to 80, and then we come back to, let's just say, $70,000, or let's just say $68,000, and then we may go up again, and then we may come back. We might come back closer to $60,000, maybe around $72,000. Every single one of these pullbacks are opportunities to getting in, to get into the market. And this right here, guys, is going to take time. This is not a couple of days or a few weeks. No, this is months and months of work. You don't have, if this is the actual bottom of this bear market, right? It's okay if you're not buying at $68,000 today, right? Let it go to 80,000. Who cares? Just be patient. There's going to be a pullback. The only way you don't get a pullback is if you get a V-shaped recovery. If we get a V-shaped recovery and then the market continues higher, all right, that's okay. There's other assets. Go in the stock market, look for something else. Palantir has been pulling back. Wait for a setup. All right, Robinhood has been pulling back. Wait for a setup in Robinhood. There's opportunities in the market, guys. Bitcoin is not the only asset. You don't have to buy Bitcoin right now. Be patient. These altcoins right here, you don't have to rush into a position. Right? So, a bunch of these guys who continue to push, you should be dollar cost averaging, you should be accumulating Bitcoin. Bitcoin is almost about to bottom. The cryptocurrency market is down. Altcoins are down 90, 80, whatever from their all-time highs. Right? Get in. No, you don't have to, guys. Like, what is the rush? What is the rush in getting in? Why weren't they telling you, why didn't they tell you when the market was topping? Get out of the market. We're about to crash. Why was that not a conversation? The more time, I spend on X, the more time I go to YouTube. You type crypto. You type crypto bottom or Bitcoin bottom. Look, 10 signs the Bitcoin bottom is closer. Yeah, it's okay. All right. It's all right. We don't have to get in right now. Okay. All right. You got time. If you're watching this, I want you to know that you have time. You have plenty of time. I think 2026, it's a long bear market. It's a long bear market. One of the arguments that I continue to see is, maybe because we didn't get a blow off top, we might bottom early. We might get a shorter bear market. Yeah, so, we're going to get a shorter bear market. Okay. If we get a shorter bear market, that's all right. I'll wait for a pullback. Chat, don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Continue to hit the like button. Let's continue, because what else would you guys like me to analyze? I've done Bitcoin. If you guys want me to continue with Bitcoin, perfectly fine with that. But, going back to Bitcoin, once again, I hope today's price action does not change your outlook on this market, because this alone doesn't do anything. There's nothing here that says this is the bottom of the bear market. There's nothing here that says that this is the beginning of a bull market. All right? And this consolidation right here, this is what a bearish consolidation looks like. Even with this price right here, guys. Even with the price like this. All right. You look at the daily MACD. In a bull market, daily MACD does not look like this. Chat, I promise you. A bullish Bitcoin, a Bitcoin that's about to start a bull market, the daily MACD is not minus 3535. Let me show you, in the last bear market, let me show you what the MACD looked like. So last bear market, that's this right here. All right. Remember, $18,000. So we're looking, this is the beginning of the uptrend. January 2023. All right. This is the beginning of an uptrend, as you guys can see. Let me show you the daily MACD. Chat. This is Bitcoin's daily MACD. January of 2023. Look, it's breaking above the zero line. Let me show you the RSI. This is the daily RSI, guys. It's breaking above the 50 line. This is a bull market. This is what your MACD and your RSI are going to look like in a bull market. Right? When you look at today, what do we have? Look, RSI is a 41. This is not a bull market. The MACD we just talked about. Look at how far from the zero line the MACD is. The MACD is negative 3.5. What is this? Like 3.53. What? It's crazy. What about the weekly? Let's take a look at the weekly, guys. In a bullish market, in a bull market, the RSI on the weekly is not 28. This is an extremely oversold market. Bitcoin is extremely oversold. Let's take a look at weekly MACD. Look at the weekly MACD right now, guys. Negative 9. This is minus 9083. Let's go look at when Bitcoin became bullish on the weekly. What was the RSI? What was the MACD? So you got to go to around the week of January 16 of 2023. I want you guys to take a look at the RSI, guys. RSI broke above the zero line. This is a bull market territory. RSI above the zero line. Notice how in the entire bull market, yes, we did get, pullbacks, but we spent, most of our time above the 50 line. All right. Only a couple of times. Like these were the deeper pullbacks right here, guys. When you get RSI below the 50 in a bull market on the weekly, this is one of the best times to be a buyer. Like you want to buy these big below 50 RSI on the weekly in a bull market. Okay, so let's take a look at. So this was what this is. Yeah, this is the bull market, right? Let's take a look at the MACD. What was the setup of our? Look at our MACD right here, chat. The MACD is about to break above the zero line, and we spent most of the time above the zero line. All right, the MACD spent most of his time above the zero line in the bull market. This right here is a bear market. When you see a MACD down here like this is a bear market, guys. MACD is below the zero line. On the weekly, that is normally a bear market. All right, look at this right here. This is January 2022. Look at your MACD. And we don't get out until February of 2023. This is an entire bear market right here. Right? Think about this. January of 2022. And the MACD doesn't break above the zero line until February of 2023. That's an entire year. What about right now, chat? Look, we lost the zero line around November of 2025. This is gonna take some time, man. All right, you could be looking at November of 2026, November of this year, basically. All right, November you're looking at here. What is November? October. There you go. November is right here, guys. So what that means is this MACD is going to do this. All right. And when the MACD is somewhere around here, this is when you should be a buyer, because by the time the MACD is getting closer to the zero line, the bottom is being put in. Right, the price of Bitcoin is putting in the bottom when the MACD is rising very close to the zero line on the weekly. You want to know how I know this? Well, if you go back right here, guys, this is when BTC was putting in the bottom somewhere around here. This is around November, October, December of 2022. All right, if I put a vertical line right here, I bet you it's right here, guys. Look, the bottom. So if you can be patient, when this MACD is rising, remember what we called this, guys? This is a bullish divergency. When this MACD is rising on the weekly, that is when Bitcoin is going to be putting in its bear market low. I don't know where that is. Is it 60,000? Is it 50? Like, I don't know. We say $39,000 based on past bear markets, retesting the Fibonacci 78 target. You need to be patient. This is not a bullish market. This is not a bullish market. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed the stream. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, guys.